good Wednesday morning. You had the All-Star game last night. Giancarlo Stanton with a mammoth home run, and he wins the MVP. So that was good to see for all the Yankee fans. What was not good to see was Aaron Judge's answer when he was asked about what he could tell Yankee fans about his future with the Yankees to Marley Rivera of ESPN. And that was one hell of an answer that he gave and makes people think that maybe he's gone. Maybe this is it. Maybe in his mind, he is no longer a New York Yankee after this year. Of course, Jacob deGrom has soreness in his right shoulder now, and a couple of days now in between the rehab starts. We have to wait and see what happens. He had a played catch, though, and felt okay 2 days after the soreness. I mean, this is just a joke, what's been going on with him for the last year and a half. And the Knicks, speaking of jokes, held a press conference without the press yesterday at Madison Square Garden. They're like North Korea. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
They're like North Korea. You would think that yesterday would be a day to celebrate for the Knicks. But ever since Leon Rose has taken over the team, you've obviously, and I think we all have obviously together noticed the new way that they are handling the media. I think that they believe, and I think Jim Dolan believes, that the Knicks have been unfairly criticized in the media about all the mistakes that they have made over the years.
Yeah.
And to me, it seems like Leon Rose said, you know what, I'm going to come in here and we're going to change our media policy. We're going to do it ever so subtly in the beginning. And then as we move along here, it's going to get more and more apparent that we are becoming North Korea, that we are not going to get embroiled into all these nonsensical, idiotic articles about the way that we do our business.
But do you really think that that's going to stop if you're the Knicks if you don't invite the press to your press conferences?
I think it only gets worse. But
exactly.
This is what I'm kind of thinking. I'm kind of thinking that this is what's going on under Leon Rose. And, Jim Dolan's got to be okay with it. But Leon Rose is the guy that took over. He saw what happened to Phil Jackson. He saw how he was made, into a fool in the media. From Frank Isola to, everybody else in between, you and I and everybody who is longtime Knicks fans and have watched this thing up close and personal over the last 20 years have basically made fun of it. And I do honestly believe that he is the guy responsible for this new kind of press protocol. And it doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, we shouldn't be surprised. I'm disappointed. I think the press needs to be there. I think they're the ones. And Bill Pito gets put into a really awkward, weird situation yesterday.
Yeah, he's the one who interviews Jalen Brunson, and he's the guy who's got to ask the questions. Now everybody believes that his journalistic credibility is in the toilet because if you don't invite the press and then Bill Pito's the only guy that is interviewing Jalen Brunson, it means that he was probably given the questions to ask, but he's an employee of there, and he's going to do whatever he has to do to be able to keep that job and support his family, so can you really get on all that much?
Just like when Mike Breen interviewed
exactly.
Leon Rose. But he has to do it.
As much as that annoyed me, and that should not happen, especially after the season that they had, and he needs to sit there and face the music, and we need to hear what Leon Rose that is. We need to hear what Leon Rose is thinking about this past season and what's going to happen in the future, and we need to hear that. Like, I could understand what he was running from then. He didn't want to face those critical questions about how bad their year was after a year in the postseason and Julius Randle and everything else. Yesterday, what are you afraid of? There's not anybody out there that was all that upset about the Jalen Brunson signing. If anything, most people liked it. And by the way, the Knicks fan is now forgotten. I mean, I'm one of them. Forgotten about that whole draft night fiasco because we feel like we've got the inside track on Donovan Mitchell. So did you really do this because you didn't want to have to answer questions about Donovan Mitchell? And oh, by the way, how easy is it to dodge those? We're not allowed to talk about a player who's under contract for another team. So that, we're always looking to improve the team in any ways that we can. How many general managers have been in that same exact position where there's trade rumors surrounding a star player in whatever sport, and they find a way to dodge the questions? So why can't the Knicks do that? It just makes them look silly. The only people invited to this press conference are MSG employees?
It's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
But I also think that probably had something to do with, not wanting to field questions about possible tampering and penalties from the NBA. And, what are you doing with Julius Randle? Are you really in on the Donovan Mitchell thing? I think it's still stuff swirling around
think about Deshaun Watson had an introductory press conference in Cleveland.
It's amazing.
And he faced the media again after that. Now, if he can do that amidst everything that's going on in his life, Leon Rose could sit there and answer some questions from Mark Berman and Bruce Beck. I'm sorry, not that hard, not that difficult. There's not that much controversy that's going on within the Knicks organization right now. You just created some of it by not having the press at the Jalen Brunson press conference.
I think the controversy is, what do you do with Julius Randle? What's going on with Donovan Mitchell? And are you going to get hit with, some sort of fine because of tampering with Jalen Brunson? I mean, those are the real controversial things.
But you know how to. Every one of those is an easy answer.
Yeah, it should be an easy answer, and they should be required to do it. And what's really surprising to me is that the NBA is allowing this.
Yeah,
I mean, the NBA. This is a member club of your league. They represent your league. And you should have a responsible media policy that every team should follow, and they should be one of the teams that, just like everybody else, does what they're supposed to do, and that is engage with the press, which is the mouthpiece to your fan base.
Mm-hmm.
And because guys like I saw, look, even
hello.
Even the White House has press conferences every day. You may not understand what the hell they're trying to say or what to do, but even they have press conferences.
That's right.
I mean, the Knicks are like like North Korea. They're the only ones that don't have a real live press conference.
Right. They don't have real press.
They have a paid employee asking questions to a player who's happy to be here. Right. Great. We all know that. What is Leon Rose? You need to hear from them. And, the NBA should require, Adam Silver's got to step up here. It's not enough of this nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, I would think so. Now, I don't know if he was privy to how the Knicks were handling this prior to this happening, because none of us were. It just so happened that yesterday we saw.
It feels that way, though. Now you see it.
Now we saw it, yeah. I mean, even Mark Berman, who is a guy who has done his best to.
Shill?
Yes. He wasn't allowed there. Like, he's not a guy who has ever really criticized the Knicks. If anything, he gets criticized for not criticizing the Knicks. Frank Isola used to trash him all the time, saying that this guy just tries to get in bed with the Knicks and do things their way so he gets the scoops and whatever.
Right.
And he wasn't even allowed there. I mean, it's pathetic. They are a really, really rough organization when it comes to stuff like this. And the sad part about it is, I'm excited right now about the basketball part of the team.
The amazing thing to me is that they own the Rangers. And I'll never forget when Jeff Gorton sent out that letter. And he said, we're trading our guys, we're starting over, and we're going to try to acquire assets, and it's going to take time. And we as Ranger fans, we felt like we were at the end of the Henrik Lundqvist era. And we all admired McDonough. He was our captain. It's the second time we sent our captain to Tampa Bay. We sent Ryan Callahan there and all this other stuff. And I got to tell you, it was disappointing, but it was honest and it was real. And they told us what they were doing. Mm-hmm. And then they were fortunate enough to be able to get the first and second overall picks in back-to-back drafts, which was helps speed up the whole process. And they made some trades and they moved some guys around and they brought in Adam Fox. And I mean, they were churning and burning, and they were not afraid to tell us what they were doing and introduce players. And even in the midst of not making the playoffs for 4 straight years, we were okay with that because we saw a plan. And then what happened, not last year or the year before with the Capitals and the Panarin ragdolling and all this other stuff. I mean, and then those guys all got fired. That was a little bit shocking. But, quite frankly, I don't really know anybody right now that is a Ranger fan, at least in my life. I can't sit here and tell you that they're not unhappy with something, but is unhappy at all with what Chris Drury has done.
So why is it different there?
I don't know. It's the craziest thing. I don't know if it's they're obviously separate and they have different people doing different things, but it has been such a mess with the Knicks for so long. At least the Rangers, had a run there for about 10 years where they were in the playoffs every year. And I think we're going to be in the midst of another one of those runs here. And they are successful, and their fan base, really is crazy about them. I don't know why the Knicks do this to their fans. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, like, what's the toughest question that comes out of yesterday? I mean, we're not in the midst of the Charles Oakley thing. We're not in the midst of the Isaiah Thomas sexual harassment claims. We're not in the midst of Jim Dolan throwing fans out of the stands and banning them for life because they said sell the team. We're not in the midst of any of that. The hardest question yesterday would have been, what's the latest with the Donovan Mitchell trade negotiations?
And
that would have been the toughest question.
I can't talk about a player that's under contract with another team. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then
we're here to celebrate Jalen Brunson coming here.
Exactly.
And we feel like we've got one of the best point guards that was on the market. We targeted him, and we feel really good about signing him.
Yeah, and then you want to tell me a Julius Randle question would have been tough. Like, Julius Randle had a really bad year last year. You know, we hear the fan base, and he got on the fan base. He was giving him a thumbs down. Is Julius Randle a part of your future? Right. Well, yeah, he's under contract. You know, we appreciate Julius's efforts. A couple of years ago, he was talked about as an all-NBA guy. And right now, Julius is a New York Knick, and we plan on that being the case going forward.
So, you know, the NFL has a media policy for every club, for every club. And they have to make, you know, certain coaches available certain times of the year. The GM's got to be available. The head coach is available pretty much every day. Players are available. I mean, everybody's available. And they have to follow through on it. And if they don't follow through on it, they'll get fined. And every team is a part of it. You know, it's part of one of the reasons, and look, the NBA is popular. We know that with its fans, and we know mainly because of the players' interaction, not because of the team's interactions.
Right.
It's always the player stuff on the social media. But, you know, this, to me, you know, Adam Silver has got to show some freaking stones here and say, look, man, you are a member club of the NBA, and you have to follow the media policy, and I'm assuming that they have one, that you have to make your team general manager, your president, who's ever calling the shots, available to the media. You just have to.
Yeah.
That's part of the engagement to the fan base. I mean, and this fan base, let's face it,
It's been through hell and back, and they're
I
still
know.
there. They're still loyal. They're still excited about this season. It's amazing. And then they just treat them like garbage, and they no way you can't get any answers about anything. Now, I know that they'd be dodging questions if the media was there, but it's just the fact that you're running and hiding. It's just, and you don't speak to anybody, and then you give this little interview to Mike Breen, and Bill Peto's up there with a bunch of questions that I'm sure was written for him by the Knicks executives. It's pathetic. What are you scared of? Honestly.
I mean, you know, even like the Lakers and Jeannie Buss, they're out there.
Everybody's out there but the Knicks.
You know, it's
Everybody.
amazing. You know, there's I don't know what channel it is, but every time I flip to this channel, it seems like there's some sort of Laker documentary on, or there's some sort of Inside the Lakers show on. It's Lakers. It's nonstop.
Yep.
And I know MSG does some of that stuff with the Knicks, and they do other things, of course. But it's like she's not afraid of anything.
No.
You know, and she lost one of the greatest players of all time in Kobe Bryant. She makes a statement about him the other day, thinking about him and how sad she was about it. And then everybody's wondering if it was a message towards, you know, LeBron and all this other stuff. Then she has to come out and say, no, it's not. I love LeBron, too. I mean, like, she's not afraid of anything.
Nobody is. As I mentioned before, Deshaun Watson held multiple press conferences in the midst of everything that's going on. There's not a single person out there that is afraid to talk in sports at some point.
Now, do you agree with me that the NBA has got to step in here and do something?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if Adam Silver knew beforehand and then said, okay, this is the way you're going to do it.
But, gee, this has been going on
since the end of the last
season.
Yeah.
Really, since Leon Rose took over.
I guess so.
He hasn't really done
He
much.
hasn't spoken. He hasn't been out there.
How many times have I asked you, what are they doing?
We don't know. They don't want to let us know.
But how many times have I asked you that?
It'll be funny if they actually start having success and all of a sudden there's press conferences all the time. Like, oh, Leon Rose is available. You know, Knicks in first place at the All-Star break or something. Leon Rose is available.
Oh, yeah.
Trot him out now. His team's winning.
Now, look, I'm as guilty as anybody else. I mean, I was laughing on draft night.
Yeah.
You know, with the whole situation. But I also did come in here the next morning and say, okay, let's see what the next set of decisions are.
Exactly.
And how they can fix this out and how they can use all these assets to try to, you know, reclaim what they had a year ago or 2 years ago. And you saw the fan base come out. I mean, even after game one of last year against the Boston Celtics, an amazing win. The eventual Eastern Conference champions, by the way.
Yeah.
And the whole Bing Bong thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was amazing. That's the fan base.
That is the fan base, all fired up, generally about nothing, but still there and still loyal. And this would be another time that you would think that the Knicks would feel good about themselves. I mean, not that they've been in competition with the Nets for long, but since they moved to Brooklyn and stolen a lot of the headlines, the Brooklyn Nets are a mess. And people look at the Knicks right now as the team that's in a way better position than the Nets because they were able to sign Jalen Brunson. They have all these picks. They have all this draft capital and assets, and Donovan Mitchell wants to play for them. Just like things are on the way up for the Knicks right now. It would have been a day to celebrate. But instead, no, nobody's invited. We'll just pump out a couple of clips, approved MSG Dolan clips on Twitter, and that's all you're going to get.
It's really amazing.
We'll throw it on MSGera.
MSGera, yeah. I do feel, because I like Bill Pito, I think he does a great job, especially when he's doing the Rangers with Steve Alakette and Henrik Lundqvist. Love those guys. I think they're great. But he's got to do a job, and he's told to do a job, or he doesn't have a job.
Exactly.
And so it's not his fault, and it's certainly not Mike Breen's fault because same thing. Mm-hmm. But Mike Breen is a big enough star to be able to say, hey, you know what? I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
But I guess how do you turn down the only interview opportunity with the team president?
I mean, as long as he was allowed to ask what he wanted to ask.
Yeah, that I don't know. That's a whole other set of circumstances.
I would think, though. I mean, Mike Breen is just like the top of this business. He's such a great guy. He's got all the integrity in the world. I would imagine.
Easy with the great guy stuff.
He's awesome. He is awesome.
He's a.
When I ran into him once out east last summer, he could not say enough nice things about you. Oh, my God. Just how's my guy Boomer doing?
He's just sucking up.
He's just the best.
Just sucking up.
You know, everybody should be like Boomer.
Oh, yeah, right.
That's what he was saying to me.
Okay, well, we're neighbors. That's probably why he was saying
Yeah, he was saying all these great things.
Yeah, but I don't, listen, hey, come on. Let's get real here.
Okay, let's get real if you like.
I do. I love the guy. He's great. And he was great when he was here with Imus.
And I would
Fantastic.
think that he would have been able to ask any question he wanted.
That I don't know.
I would hope so. I mean, he would probably not do the interview if he wasn't allowed to do it.
Well, I would hope so, too, but...
The Knicks are the Knicks.
The Knicks are the Knicks, and it is what it is. I just, I mean, we saw and we felt the fan base 2 years ago. And we felt it at the beginning of last year, and they still have like a clunky team because of Julius Randle.
Yeah.
He's just the wrong guy for what I think we all want to see. And they gave him a lot of money. Somebody made the wrong decision. And then because he was unhappy somewhere around the All-Star game, they wanted to get fired. Somebody wanted to have Thibodeau fired.
Yeah. Well, right now, though, after all that, I still feel like they're in a pretty decent place. I really do believe that.
They should be better now because they do have a veteran that should be able to handle the ball, distribute the ball, not panic with the ball, and not turn the ball over.
That's right. And hopefully there's another guy, a 25-year-old all-star who joins the team as well in short order. All right, it is Boomer and Gio on the Fan and CBS Sports Network. Jerry.